Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Tabletakes presented by Gen Con. My name is Christian. I am joined today by Bonsai, Emma, and Derek, who's back. Welcome back, man.
Back.
I forgot you
the
worked here.
sun's best efforts, I survived Southern California.
And you're all pink now.
Yeah,
It looks like you're just a little embarrassed or very happy about something.
If you like this red face, Derek, I need to show you the pictures of me on the rides at Disneyland. Because I become Red Hulk, apparently, when I go on a roller coaster.
Yeah, frankly, I'm a little disappointed you haven't showed us those already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a picture of me in the Incredicoaster, and I had to explain to everybody, no, I was not having a heart attack. It's just when I'm on a roller coaster, you grip it and you hold yourself in.
Yeah,
so
you have a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And, like,
Because that safety
blood
bar just
flowing.
isn't going to do it.
Well, no, so like my knees are too big to, they bump into the front. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the entire Incredicoaster, I'm just like gripped on for dear life. So everybody else is like, hooray!
So, a note to all park goers, if you are a large need person, maybe watch out for the Incredicoaster.
So the entire ride, I'm just like,
Well, even if you're tiny, there's been times where I felt my shoulders go out of the areas for some
Oh,
rides.
yeah, I can see why tiny people would have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Roller
like,
coasters just death machines. I mean, I think we just all
that's why I
agree
need
on
the super strap down, and that's why I lock into place too.
We fly in big metal tubes across the country
Yeah, that's
all
fine.
the time.
That's fine.
all the time.
Did you know
All
that
the
you
I'm
time.
flying here.
I'm sorry you don't appreciate my
Fair.
regional accent.
Oh, I appreciated it and wanted to join in.
All right, I'm glad I could be there for you.
But yes, I survived the national parks and Southern California,
And small children.
and multiple small children deployed
Yeah.
at once. Plus a great number of my friends in close proximity for an extended period of time. All survived.
Yeah.
Still
I've come
friends?
through,
Still
yep,
friends?
We have come through
Wow.
the other
Wow.
side.
Impressive.
Very good.
All right. Well, hey, like I said,
And Star Wars Land is awesome.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I want to go there so bad.
how could it not be
I drank
awesome?
Coke out of a thermal detonator.
Did you keep it?
You did,
I
wait,
thought about it and then didn't.
he didn't just
It
say he
wasn't one of
did
the
coke out of a
novelty
thermal
ones.
detonator, right?
Yeah, I
he did.
Okay. You know, to each his own. I'm sure I heard that wrong. That's fine.
Sure
we
it
should
wasn't a
probably
real
we should
one.
probably just bust right into headlines at this point.
Sure.
We got a lot of news to get
Yep.
through today, and so we are going to give that news to you. Emma is here to
No,
talk
bonsai.
about
Nope. I
bonsai.
am.
Yeah, you're talking about the important thing.
All
Switch
the
up,
important
switch
things.
around.
Guess
Switch-
what? Exciting news. Tariffs. Oh man. Yay.
Yay.
Everyone likes hearing about tariffs. Well,
I
this
don't.
one has specifically to deal with Hasbro toys. Basically, sales overall kind of plateaued. They did take a hit. About Hasbro Gaming has gone down about 17%, but D&D and Magic the Gathering still remain as the bright spot of Hasbro as it is now. To note, the 17% is probably affected by the tariffs. As noted, over the past 6 months or so, Hasbro has been slowly moving their manufacturing companies out of China into other areas such as India and Vietnam.
And Magic in particular, I think, is already doing most of its production outside of China. I think a lot of it's in the U.S.
US.
Yes, in the U.S. because
So like, you know,
Because leaks.
yeah, so that's probably partly why their Magic and D&D were not as directly affected by these tariffs.
Yeah.
So what are these tariffs specifically? I know we've talked about it on the show before, but if you're watching for the first time, you may not know what we're talking about. There's obviously a trade war going on with China right now. I don't know if
Yes.
anybody's heard about this.
Yeah.
And they have imposed tariffs on specifically paper products and toys, right?
paper products
yeah.
and toys, and it's about altogether about like a 10 to 15% upcharge. And then in general, that's same with the paper industry itself actually going up automatically because more stores are closing down
Right.
than printing paper.
Yeah, you had researched a while ago the weirdness of paper, where
Yeah.
more demand for paper is driving to producing shipping containers like boxes,
Boxes.
stuff
Yep.
for Amazon, things like that. So even just the places that you could be printing books, games, stuff like that is
Yes.
narrowing.
Right.
Yeah. Only a few, because this seems more profit to just do a series of boxes versus like doing individual books, individual cards that you have to handle more packaging with. That's why a lot of people are making those changes. But it's a good thing to note that within this quarter two, with the sales of Magic and Dungeons and Dragons being within like majority in the U.S. Produced, those sales are overall 26% growth rate.
So the Wizards of the Coast branch of Hasbro is doing very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the way around.
Well, I mean, like that seems to be the recurring theme every time.
Well,
we
the
get
last
one of these
the last
reports.
quarter
Yeah.
it was exactly the same, except we didn't have the hit from the tariffs yet. We
Yeah.
just knew they were coming.
Yep.
Now we've seen that growth has been staying. I mean, that means that's good news for gaming. Is really what it is. Yes, the tariffs are bad, but the hobby is still growing.
almost
And
like
more
people's-
people are getting their eyes on it, which is
almost like
falls
people's
in line with what Hasbro's been doing with
Still like
D&D.
to play D&D. Still like to play Magic.
Yeah. What's interesting too is a lot of this is at the retailer level. So it's not like Hasbro is like at the Hasbro level. It's Hasbro reaching out to their retailers and their retailers being kind of gun shy about it. It's like, we don't really want to.
You don't want to overstock
Invest.
anything when everything's so expensive. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
This time of year is really hard for retailers specifically because they have to figure out what they're going to be ordering for the holiday season, and if those tariffs are a factor in what they buy, they could really lose out on a lot of money.
Yeah, you have to make note that there are some forgiveness for the tariffs. I think it was mentioned a few weeks ago that they are allowing some companies, certain companies, to waive the tariffs during this holiday season.
Yeah.
The-
Some companies.
Some companies.
The
They're
tariff
very
process.
special.
the
Some
tariff
companies that lobbied to the right people.
The tariff process starts out bad, gets worse, only more complicated the way through.
But you had mentioned too that it was toys that we're
Oh, yeah.
seeing a lot of the.
the drop. So
Yeah.
like games like Bop It, which we wouldn't like. They say what is it, Hasbro Gaming, but this is like Rubik's cubes.
Yeah.
and
Right, which
Bop It.
it's a toy, but it's a game.
Yes.
So it's getting hit twice.
So it's getting hit twice because
Yeah.
all those plastic products have to come from somewhere.
Not to mention all the board games that are just essentially made out of paper to begin with.
Yes.
It's like you get hit twice for that too. So I can see why it's a big hit on the industry, but I'm glad that gaming is still achieving something. We're getting some more D&D. We got lots of Magic stuff happening.
Yeah.
Although it does occur to me that like this is maybe a really interesting example of the uneven impact tariffs have
Yeah.
across the industry. Because so tariffs are potentially have a huge impact. You can clearly see how it's affecting Hasbro in general. But Magic, we just talked about, had already taken a lot of its shipping or printing, or maybe you never had it in China. I don't recall. But like it's been very strong in the U.S. For many years. So they've already positioned themselves to not have to deal with that tariff. But if you look at many Kickstarters, a lot of them have been produced in China because they're smaller organizations, individuals. They have to negotiate much smaller contracts. They don't have the clout to get larger contracts somewhere else that might be more convenient in other ways.
Yeah.
So you have the tariffs kind of inordinately or unequally affecting the smaller companies much more than the largers who are already leading the industry.
Yeah.
Now tariffs are generally temporary measures.
They're supposed to be.
They're
They're
supposed to be
supposed to
temporary
be.
measures.
Yeah.
And yet Hasbro is pulling so much of its production out of China right now. I mean, they did over 2/3 of it there before, and they're planning on having most of it gone by 2023, so they're expecting the tariff to stay.
No, so I suspect that that's not the case. Like I have a feeling that they were pulling out way before that.
There's actually more of an interesting note to that. China has become more of an economic giant, so it becomes less
Yes,
profitable.
I have CNN.
Yeah.
So it's become less profitable to have these building products here, while versus you could go to the Philippines, you can go to Vietnam, you can go to India to get the same kind of stuff, and they also have less restrictions on environmental impact.
So I mean, if you think about the if you think about the business cycle of things,
Yes.
theoretically, tariffs aside, so separate that choppiness, or
Yeah.
that exacerbating factor aside. What's kind of happening even before that is I'm pretty sure Hasbro was looking at it and saying,
Yeah.
China is now enough of a developing economy that it is cheaper to produce this at another country. So the same thing that happened where production left the U.S. and went to China, now is leaving China and going to India, Vietnam, Philippines, things like that.
And eventually we'll pick one of those countries to make into the next China.
Yeah. And what will be next? The moon? We'll have to set up some colonies.
The moon
so.
rules #1.
Well, I feel like at a certain point, Earth is
Church.
going to be the one that's left, and then everybody's going to go to space.
Yeah. And space will be the cool place.
I think we are
Space is
establishing
important.
the premise of many an RPG.
Yeah, I literally just wrote my next 2 sessions
There
right
you
then.
go.
Well, the interesting thing here too is the digital arms of WotC in particular. And the fact like Arena, I'm sure, is amazingly profitable, and it says that they're working on a lot of other digital properties. We've seen that they've increased their hiring of developers. Like they were going to like double the number of developers or something in a recent article that we had talked about.
They have a Baldur's Gate coming out too. So
Yeah.
Well, they also just released new versions of all the old games on consoles. Like I saw that while I was on vacation, like Planescape,
Yeah.
Yep.
Icewind Dale came out on consoles.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see, if this goes like totally south, they might even shift even more of their focus to the digital arena.
Well, they're going to have to. I mean, they are a print company when it comes down to it, and that's. I'm sorry to surprise anyone with this, but that's kind of going out of fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we have paper right here on the table is kind of interesting to me
Yeah.
because so many places you just don't
You have
use it
tablets.
anymore.
Right. Yeah. Where are
And-
tablets?
I mean, they have to be moving.
Yeah, where
into-
are your tablets?
They have to
Where
move
are
into the
those?
digital market. We live in a lower tax bracket than you, Derek.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Just how that goes.
I wish.
No, I promise. I don't have a real job.
There.
mean,
This
it
is
would
a real job.
It will be interesting more that we move into the augmented reality stage of things. Like
yeah.
I'm down for augmented reality versus VR, just because I like the idea of putting on cool glasses and then talking to a ghost friend of mine.
Well,
I like doing. I will do either of
no.
those things individually and be happy.
Ghost friend of mine. That
Well,
sounds
no,
great.
but they're real.
Sure.
But they're digital.
Are you sure they're
Yep.
real?
They're real.
Yep.
When was the last time you saw them in person?
Like
I'm just
wrestling.
saying.
It's like wrestling. It's real to her.
You know, it just reminds me of the whole Shadowrun thing. Remember when Shadowrun first gave you the option to reskin the net however you wanted it to be?
Right.
Like, I can just see you reskinning Twitter to just be ghosts instead of people.
Just
Anyway,
floating around.
like, I mean, it's interesting for us to say that because the amount of time we have spent talking about how much we like digital adaptations and how those are not a threat for the physical products.
Yeah.
You know, I think that we will have physical cards and physical games for a very, very long time.
Right.
What I do think is that we're going to see more and more digital adaptations and more digital original stuff. Like Hearthstone, I think, is a great example of, basically a card game
Yep.
that was digital first. You could see that maybe someday being a physical kind of thing, but like that stuff I think we'll just see more of. And I don't
Right.
think that is because there's a pressure to stop printing things. I think it's just because
Paper's
people
getting expensive.
love
Yeah.
those kinds
Trees,
of games
They
Yeah.
take
and
a
they
while
like to
grow.
play them.
do.
And they want to play them everywhere they're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's good that they're moving into digital. Paper is not going to be forever. There you go. I just told the
miss you,
future,
paper.
everybody.
I
Sorry.
believe it.
Yeah.
So is that it for China? We're not going to talk about China anymore today, right?
Maybe later.
Maybe
Come
later.
on, do we have to?
Yeah.
All right, can we talk about something not China?
Yeah, let's talk about something magical.
Okay.
Oh, magic.
Yeah.
Disneyland?
Magic. Yeah.
You
You could just spend the
know.
whole episode talking about Star Wars. I'm sure you have a lot more to say.
It was
about.
cool.
Yeah.
I had a drink that was a sour sarlacc.
That's
Ew. Was it gooey?
Why does that sound
it
like
have
it's on Urban
tentacles?
Dictionary?
No, it was like limeade with raspberry in it.
Oh,
Why does it
okay.
also feel like it should be gooey?
Yeah.
Like it should have some gooey
Or have
Why do you
like-
feel like it should be gooey? What are you drinking at home?
gooey stuff.
Is
Or
that
like
off the
tea
shelf
in it.
blonde milk?
It's off the shelf.
Oh yeah, blue milk.
The blue milk.
Blue milk was not bad. It gave me like a crazy ice cream headache, but yeah, you gotta sip it real slow. Just
Is it
word
really
of
cold?
advice.
Is that it?
It's basically like a coconut almond milk slushy.
Oh man, yeah, I would never drink that.
With blueberry.
I don't really like those either, but it was actually really good.
So it's good for the people who are lactose intolerant.
Actually, yes.
Hey! All
I
right.
want a coconut almond milk slushy.
There. You gotta go to Disneyland.
Nope, I'd actually rather throw up and hit my head on the toilet.
No.
All right.
See-
Anyways, back to magic. We can talk about Star Wars a little later.
I really,
Much
just,
as you
I really just want to take the four of us and send us, like, we need a reality TV show that is us taking field trips to dumb places and doing things.
Yes. Sign
So
me
if
up. That would be
someone-
amazing.
If someone could just finance us.
But that's the best. The
No,
worst is the best.
Because I'm like, ooh, shiny, piece of candy,
Yeah.
piece of candy. I
Yeah.
would be one of those people that are like, ooh, piece of candy on the ground, and then get caught
yeah, in
Yeah.
the mousetrap.
in the mouse
That
trap.
makes,
Yeah.
makes for great TV.
So magic.
Magic, sorry.
All right, update to the Magic banned and restricted list, and this was interesting because they actually bumped up the date for the banning, and everyone was like freaking out. They're like, "Oh, something's happening, or maybe something's not happening. Maybe
So
they
it's
just
like-
adjusted the date just to mess with us." And everyone
Did they
was
move
like,
they moved the date up as opposed to back?
"Yeah. Well, to
So is there just like a really broken combo out there right
There-
now
well,
that is
yeah.
so broken that they have to fix the game right now instead of when they were
Yes,
supposed to?
exactly.
Oh, maybe some sort of combo or two
So-
that is like half of all games, or
Yeah.
half of all decks.
So I'm sure you all know a little bit about Magic. Like, what is the most basic part
Their
of Magic? The
cards.
core, the
Lands.
foundation. Thank you, Derek. The lands, right?
Oh, I was right.
Yes.
Yeah. Here we go.
Good job.
I thought
I'm really proud of you
I thought I
today.
was just being a jerk.
No, that's where I was going. Lee call and response was perfect.
I thought it
The
was
lands.
lands, and I was afraid to say so because I knew I was going to be wrong.
No, what? That's perfect. Yeah, y'all doing great. You passed the quiz.
You get a star.
So imagine if you could play a deck where you just played lands, and then your opponent blacks out, and 3 turns later, there's 80 zombies hitting them in the face.
I like everything that you've just described.
Okay,
That
well,
actually sounds really cool.
great. Then you're going to be sad because the card that allowed you to do that, that's the one that's banned. Not
Is it
some-
because everybody was doing it?
Yes.
Oh, makes sense.
But I can still do it to my friends.
Well, yeah, in paper. I mean, you can't
Right.
do it.
Just not
or
officially.
yeah.
That's fine.
You have to unofficially
I
do
was
it to
never
your
going to
friends.
win those tournaments
Unsanctioned.
anyway, so
So yeah, not some fancy creature, not some overpowered planeswalker, although there are a couple of those too, but it was a land called Field of the Dead. And the way the land works is once you have a bunch of different types of lands, so they put a lot of restrictions on it. It's like you need to have like a crazy number of lands. Who would ever get this many lands? Like that's just crazy talk. And then at a certain point, you just, every time you play a land, you're pumping out more zombies. And you can only play 1 land per turn, right? So it's probably not that bad.
But
Except
it is.
for, yeah, with Golos, which is a card from a previous set,
Yeah.
you could get out more lands, you could get the Field of the Dead specifically, and there's other cards that let you play more lands.
Oh, so you just like dig in your deck, you pull out all the lands you want, you move them to the top, you take that, and just
Yeah,
put out
you
the
just
card
keep
you
slamming
want.
down lands. It's just like, okay, and now I have 1,000,000 zombies, and the other person, there's not a lot of land destruction in the set right now, too, so you can't even like deal with that. So you're just like, okay.
So, but to be clear, Field of the Dead suggests a black card.
I mean, it's just like a cracked
And
desert
zombies
thing.
suggest black, right?
Yes, yeah.
So we've officially established that black is best.
There.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, land is not colored technically, so.
I wonder what deck you played, Derek. No.
Anyways, yeah. So
Not very good ones.
Field of the
Were they
Dead
black?
is
They were.
banned, and the big thing about this too is like you were saying, 42% or something
Yeah,
of the
like,
decks.
like I was looking at the numbers that we had here,
Yeah.
and I think the Field of the Dead
For
had
the Mythic
42% of the
Championship
field.
5, yeah.
Yeah. And then another band that one here had 55% of decks were built around it. Like,
Wow.
I mean,
That's too many.
yeah, like
That's a lot.
even as someone who is not in any way playing competitive Magic, like
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that being anything resembling a healthy environment.
Yeah, and like there's the competitive environment, but now more and more so there's the spectator environment. So I watch a lot of streamed Magic, and if I'm watching the same decks beat each other up all the time, and especially if they're not interactive and if they're not an interesting viewing experience, you know, people are gonna tune out. They're not gonna tune in. They're like, oh, it's just the same thing, you know.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna-
you'll lose spectators, like all that streaming revenue, all the marketing that comes along with it. So it makes sense for them to do a ban. Although already I'm hearing of new broken combos, so I guess it'll remain to be seen
I think
if
that
they'll
is
ban more cards.
I think that is a mainstay of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think,
true.
There's a pathway to
Hot
exploit.
fixes on broken combos is kind of just the order of the day.
well,
Yeah.
when it
by,
comes
by
to
the
that
same
game.
token, like I think people like a certain level of broken combos. I think
Yeah.
excite people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think they're designed to be like that
Yeah,
too. It's
exactly.
like works like when you get the back to response working as intended.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's what they
you
wanted.
want to have you want to have enough of those broken combos that people are excited to play them.
Yeah.
You just don't want them to be so broken or so reliable that they are ubiquitous and that half of everybody's playing them.
Yeah, and you want a rock paper scissors thing. So it's like, oh, this broken combo beats this broken
Yep.
combo, and you can kind of edge in with this one. Here's some like tech decks. You just want like
You want
a
variety.
healthy,
Yeah.
healthy format. Yeah, so we'll see. You know, and the tricky thing about bans too is you can say like, if you would look at this deck, say like, oh, ban Golos. Golos is the problem, but it's hard to like surgically remove the card. Like, okay, you ban Golos, and it's like the deck is still a problem. Or now you've banned Field of the Dead, and maybe another deck is a problem. So it's really hard with these bans to see how everything will turn out. But we're in that phase now that we're seeing how all this plays out.
And we're doing it early because it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I think
ripping
is
the
great.
Band-Aid right off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, no, this isn't working.
So when is that banned?
Now.
Oh.
It's like already.
Now.
Yeah.
It's
I was
now.
on
It's a
Arena,
done
and
deal.
it's
Don't
just
even
like,
try and pull that
bam.
card out.
Yeah.
Oh. They're going to take it and rip it apart in front of you and burn it.
Yeah.
All right, so
No,
there's.
no, that's old Magic.
Well,
New Magic's much nicer.
I'm sure
Okay.
that that's the last of the Magic news for the day.
No,
at least,
there's
right?
a new format, and this is incredibly exciting. I don't know when the last time they introduced a new format. I mean, they're doing like Brawl and things.
And by format, just to be clear,
Yeah.
you don't mean a new way to play Magic. You mean like a new category of cards that are eligible for tournament use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a competitive format. It's called Pioneer. It covers the last 31 sets of Magic. So I made a handy chart here. I don't know if you can see this on the camera because as you pointed out, the terminology for
Well, I
Okay.
think we might need to hold it still for long enough for them to. Can you
I mean, the
focus
chart is
on
not
this
that
on
great.
camera? Huh, that's weird.
So
Maybe you could just read it to them.
Yeah.
the terminology, as Derek pointed out, is a little confusing.
Really?
Standard is the most recent, like right now, 5 sets. It's
Okay.
usually the last 2 years.
Sure.
Modern is the last 67 sets. Yeah, I got that right. So going all the way back to 2003. And then there's Legacy and a bunch of other formats as
So
well. Because you were thinking like Modern's the most modern
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But it's
right?
not.
No,
Absolutely not.
it's
Because their naming
backwards.
conventions
Right.
are dumb. I'm
And-
just going to say it, guys.
And Pioneer doesn't really point to what exactly it is, but it's basically
That sounds like it's like the oldest cards.
Yeah,
Like, these are the
I-
cards that started it all. They pioneered the
They
game.
pioneered
Right.
the game.
Legacy are the people that came after the pioneers.
They're-
What I do love is like every time I was asking you to explain this to me, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That like
It
this
doesn't
is a
make
middle
sense.
ground
Yeah.
to like help people get into like modern format, but it's not super intimidating. But then I
Yeah.
was like, but modern is the current card, so it's just a handful. Wouldn't that? I don't understand what. So
Modern
literally,
should be
I
the
would
current
follow
cards.
you everywhere, and then I'd be like, okay, but now I'm gonna reset when I
Yeah.
don't understand
Start
anything.
over again?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about halfway. Pioneer's about halfway between standard and modern. It's
But so
basically
So
how
basically,
it
you
breaks
take a
down.
chunk out of the middle of modern, and then like that's what you get for pioneer.
Yeah, well, like the end, like the last.
You get the last
half.
bit.
Yeah. And what's cool about this is like
So the newest format gets only
Oh.
the tiniest little bit of the modern.
there. Yes.
My brain's hurting over this. I'm not gonna. Yep. Magic.
All right. Well, so like we had talked about this, like what is exciting about this.
Yep.
And as someone who plays a fair amount of Magic and has been playing for about 4 years now, like I am kind of excited about this because, like I was saying, people getting into Magic, you go through your first set rotation and you're like, oh, all these cards I really like, I can't play anymore. I guess that's how it works.
That just hit me in Arena because
Yeah.
I've been playing Arena
Yeah,
enough,
yeah,
and they did the
exactly.
first rotation, and
Yeah.
literally every deck that I have, it rotates out.
Yeah.
There's one deck I think I have
Yeah.
that I can use.
And so that's like the first time it happens, it's kind of like, oh, and the second time it's like, okay, I'm used to this. And the third time you're like,
Okay,
darn
stop it.
Like,
Stop it.
At a certain point, you start to look at modern, like, oh, hey, how you doing over there?
I've got
'Cause
those
you're-
cards.
Yeah,
I
it's
wouldn't
like,
mind using them again.
But modern at this point is just so expensive and so busted, and there's such a rigid meta to it that it's a little intimidating. So Pioneer is that middle ground. I can look at like Walking Ballista, Winding Constrictor. I can like ping people with just like 1 damage to the face.
Hold on,
over
are you
and
making
over.
up words right
all
now?
the words you're saying, I totally understand
Yeah.
and
Yes.
follow along
Yeah.
with.
Yes.
I just accused her of making them up.
There's
No, we know what she's talking
yes.
about.
Yeah, we do,
are expert
definite.
Magic players too.
Right.
You have not.
Well, I've been
intimidated
playing
us in
since
any way.
standard.
yeah.
No.
Is that right? Pioneer? No. The beginning would be
Modern.
Legacy?
The
There-
very beginning
yeah.
is modern.
No, Legacy is older.
Oh
than-
God.
wait. hold on.
Legacy is what I play.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's
Because it's the only place that my cards are legal.
right,
Period.
right. There's energy. There's like a lot of mechanics that are. I think there was a lot of growth in the last few years. There's people who maybe held on to those cards or just excited to not have to deal with rotation because these formats you can play your deck for long because they don't rotate out. So there's a lot of fun.
Have they announced that Pioneer won't rotate? Because Modern doesn't rotate, right?
Right. Modern doesn't rotate.
Modern doesn't stay current.
I mean,
So-
it stays because you can
Wait.
just keep putting this
Sure,
stuff.
sure. So,
Yeah.
so Modern,
Yes.
I think the only way I can think about this is Modern is like the modern era of Magic. That's what I'm
Yes.
going to go with.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like an era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those sets never rotate. Have they confirmed that Pioneer is going to do that?
They haven't said that it will rotate, so that's my assumption.
I wonder if they don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they're going to see how it goes. Because I think the thing that you mentioned is it sounds really interesting that a new format means there's no established meta.
Yeah.
So theoretically, any deck could work.
Right, yeah.
So there's that excitement of a new format where you're
Exactly.
like, I could try it. Who knows how it'll work out?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
magic.
Yeah,
that's
the
what's-
possibilities are limited.
Limited.
They're limited.
Right.
Actually, limited is a different format.
Yeah, thank you. See, look, you're doing great.
I know enough to make the joke, but not enough to know what the joke meant.
Doing great, nailed it. But it is exciting. That's the other
Everything's
exciting
fine.
thing about it now is like
are.
having such an open format like
You're all
this.
fine here.
There's no meta, so I can make my decks. I can like go to my local game store. That's the other thing. Local game stores are already doing Pioneer tournaments. So if this is something you're into, you can actually do this in paper.
So they
in
pioneered the
places.
format.
I figure like a pioneer tournament is like a wagon train
Oh,
race.
Just
That's what I
coming
think
in
of.
with gotta ham fist those in.
Yeah.
Back.
But anyways, that's Pioneer.
Sweet.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Good thing that we're done with Magic news.
There.
Yeah, that'll be it then, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
there's
Nope.
one more thing. real
There's
quick.
one more.
Theros details announced. Theros Beyond Death. They're doing a lot of packages. Like basically most of what we've seen from Eldraine. So everything works from Eldraine. The one big surprise I had from this was the collector boosters did really well. Like I know I was doubtful. I was like, I don't know, they're gonna be really pricey. I don't know if people are gonna go in for it, but it turns out people like fancy cards.
Yep.
Who
What?
knew?
Fancy.
I knew.
They're yeah.
People like
shiny
fancy stuff.
People like shiny stuff.
I was-
yeah.
Nice.
I think
I was alive during the comic book boom of the '90s, where everything was chromium covered. So
Yeah.
I knew it was only a
If
matter
you
of time.
slap chrome on it, it's fancy.
It's true.
Class.
Yeah. And I think I read a little bit of discussions online. Some people were, of course, salty about it. They're like, oh, I got the thing and I didn't make my money back, blah, blah, blah. But for the people who are just like, hey, I cracked a bunch of packs and like did get my value over time.
Just the idea of playing a game to get your money back from it.
That seems.
It's just so gambly. I love it.
is.
There,
I love
but
it.
it's not gambling.
It's not.
It's not
it is a skill-based game.
with collector's edition shiny chrome.
We're gonna have like wizards assassins coming in after you specifically.
Wizard assassins,
Let
just
them
people with
come.
suits and some papers.
Yeah.
Let them come.
All right, releasing January 24th, 2020. All right.
2020.
That is all
So,
the-
well, the one note that I saw that seemed really interesting to me, especially now that my decks on Arena don't work,
Yeah.
is that they had the Planescape, or the Planescape, I wish,
Yeah.
but the Planeswalker decks, the pre-constructed
Yeah.
decks, have codes to also get those cards in Arena, is that right?
Yes.
And you were like, oh, Derek, they've been doing that.
There.
So
Oh,
did I miss the boat on that?
Uh,
Because it's cool.
they've been doing arena codes.
Sure.
So in a lot of things, you get free packs,
Yeah.
you get free limited events. They're maybe doing it for the Brawl decks. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's a great movement, you know, because that's one of the big concerns about Arena. They're like, oh, I have to rebuy everything in Arena and paper. So if they're just giving people that stuff, then they've been pretty generous. in
Especially for the
general.
intro decks, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And for Planeswalker, you know, there's like not crazy powerful or expensive stuff in there. So it's kind of like just do the thing, let people play their decks as much as possible. I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Cool.
All right, and
That's
that is
nice of them. That is.
Yeah.
What a generous group of people.
Yeah, yeah. And they're just making so much money. too.
They're making so
Yeah.
much money. This is.
So, news from Modiphius. Derek, tell me, they're making an RPG based around a real-time strategy game,
Yep. So they're, yeah.
a famous one.
Yes.
That you know about.
Yes. Bonsai and I think, are on the same
Tag
wavelength.
team, yeah. 'Cause
So, yeah.
this is a game that came out. It's like the first real-time strategy game that really came out.
So it's a pioneer,
It's a
which means it's somewhere in the middle.
No, but it's before.
but it's before.
Yeah, it's not a trailblazer or a pathfinder, it's a pioneer.
It's
Got
pioneer.
it.
Yes. But yeah, it came out in 1990 or 1999. Sorry, 1999. So it's celebrating recently.
I still remember when it came out. Like, I mean, it wasn't the first RTS.
Yeah,
but
I was like, I played a lot of Warcraft and StarCraft.
Yeah. So it's
But
not the
it
first
was
RTS, but
one
it's
of them.
But
one of them.
it
not
was the first one that really went 3D.
Yeah.
So it was the
Yes.
first space one that was on a 3D plane. So you were able to fully rotate the camera and kind of see your fleet of ships fan out and stuff like that. And it was mind blowing at the time.
But yeah, so it's in September. It celebrated its 20-year anniversary, and there has been remastered versions of it, and a number 2 that comes out. But the bigger news is that there's an RPG coming out based off of the lore and the world.
Tabletop style, not digital.
Tabletop, not digital.
So and this is from Modiphius,
Yes, from
who has been doing a whole bunch of licensed products.
So it has an incredibly rich thematic world that people are very excited about.
It might.
Might.
I mean, I'm not going to say that it doesn't exist and that there aren't people who are super excited about it.
But it's like a lot of 90s, like late 90s kind of thing. It's like,
Right.
oh, we have these oppressed people, then we throw future at it, and then stuff happens in space.
Is it early 90s or
you
late
did a good job
90s?
of
Because
selling
if it's
Yeah.
because one will actually the
Late
spaceship
90s.
might have boobs too. You know,
There.
depending on when in the 90s it was made.
But I mean, for realistic purposes, you play the Karak. That is a race that lives on this horrible desert planet, really bad. And then they recently
So they're
discovered that that's not
Karakis.
actually their home world, and that they've just been oppressed by an evil evil space.
Yeah.
Evil
yes.
space.
So they're like, why does
dominated-
everything suck
Empire
all the
Corporation
time?
thing?
Empire Corporation called the
sounds familiar.
Taidan. And so basically the Taidan are like, no, we signed an agreement a long time ago. You can't go hyperspace anymore and get off this horrible planet. And they're like, no, this is horrible planet. We're going off into space. And so basically they take this mothership and try to find a new home world. And the mothership basically acts as a mobile base that you can fly in. You can send people to get resources, and from that resources you can make little new ships.
Right.
And
I
the
want to play
bigger
the digital game now.
Yeah,
The digital game.
The digital game was a very classic, like, arrive in system, harvest everything from system, build
Make
resources,
baby
murder everyone who
spaceships.
comes out.
Yeah. And then as the character, you actually are the ship. They hooked your brain into the ship.
So
For the role-playing game.
No.
No, for the game. Like
for
you
the
play
game
the
game.
commander, but you're neurally linked to the mothership,
Okay.
so you are the mothership.
You are the mothership.
It was the 90s.
Yeah.
How are they transferring that over to tabletop?
Who knows?
So this in tabletop, they're going to do more of the lore of how it basically how they got slapped down on the desert planet. So
Oh, okay.
So
So it's like a prequel.
prequel. Yeah.
So you don't get any of the cool spaceship stuff that you would normally
Well, there
get.
is. You did have hyperdrive before, but it was this planet wasn't always a desert kind of thing. Like they were fighting a war, and sometimes when you, for story wise, if you want to win, you gotta nuke 'em.
Yeah, you got
Of course.
to, what is it, Scorch the Sky?
This
Like
is-
the,
Scorched Earth.
yeah.
We're not sure which side did it.
Cute.
Yeah. So basically, they just slapped down these people until they forgot that they had technology.
Not sure who put the sun out first.
It's only, I can't imagine any real world parallels that we could draw there. However, so the thing that I find really kind of intriguing about this is like it doesn't seem like it's part of a package of Gearbox properties or other things that Modiphius is doing. So it's weird because, like, as we were talking about, it doesn't seem to be this huge body of lore that was the reason people really loved it.
Right,
like,
right.
there are definitely video games people love for the world that it's in.
Like World of Warcraft, or I guess Warcraft,
No.
before World of Warcraft. Incredibly rich lore. Have you watched the videos of that? There's like
No.
multi-hour long, just the history of Sylvanas. Like,
I
there's a
saw Lord
lot.
of the Rings, so anyway.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like somebody took crayons to Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
That's,
Ooh.
Fight. You like the World of Warcraft movie? That's all we have to say.
Yeah.
But
art.
like, Homeworld doesn't seem to be have that
rich.
community.
Yeah.
It's weird. So it seems like an odd choice for Modiphius to take off the shelf. But it's one of those things that kind of got me thinking about it. And there's kind of two takes on it I could see. One,
are they table takes?
yeah,
Are they
Yeah.
hot takes?
Right.
maybe tepid, lukewarm
Okay,
takes.
lukewarm takes.
But like, if this had been part of a package of Gearbox properties, like if they had announced this right when they were announcing a Borderlands 3 RPG that came out on board, like I would have figured this is a package deal.
Which, by the way, why didn't they do that? Okay. Sorry.
That is sheer madness.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
Anyway.
That's next year.
So it seems
Better
like maybe there's kind of two ways I can see this on like someone deciding to do this. One is it's just a passion project. You know, I think they called out the line developers already for it. Virginia Page, I think, has been working on Star Trek.
Yep.
Maybe she just loves it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just love it and they just want to play around in that sandbox, which could be really cool if you have this person who has this huge passion for the lore that the rest of us never got into.
Yeah.
And this is a way to introduce it. That could be really interesting.
Yeah.
Almost certainly developed by a game designer who just played a ton of this game.
Yeah.
Probably just loved it.
Yeah.
And
Or the other avenue I could see is that this is one of those weird properties where the name has some recognition, but it's kind of a blank canvas. Not
Yeah,
entirely,
yeah.
but like there's not a lot of established lore. So you potentially have a lot of freedom to build stuff in. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
you get the new IP-ness of building something new, but you get the brand recognition of something that's. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It
so
was a
it'll
really.
probably be as awesome as the New World of Darkness at the very worst.
I like the new World of Darkness.
I know you do. I know you do.
More people should appreciate it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree that you just said that.
There.
But it does play with the D20 system, the 2D20 system,
Which I'm interested in because I haven't played any of it yet. You have a little bit.
Yep.
And-
I had a chance to play a little bit of it, the Star Trek version at a Gen Con a couple of years ago, and it seemed to simulate Star Trek pretty well.
I'm thinking about picking up the Conan one just because I like the old sword and sandals kind of.
I think I like the Star Trek one because it felt like it was presenting us with challenges that weren't just punching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of an ebb and flow between the players and the GM kind of
like
establishing
that.
momentum
It's
and
all
going
about
back and
the
forth.
green space alien.
But I do like punching.
There's still a lot
Well,
of
so
punching.
you'll do original series. I can do Next Generation. It'll be fun.
Ooh, yes, I'm in on
There is
Next
a lot of punching
Generation.
in the original series.
Sorry, I was just thinking.
I want more of the Deep Space Nine feel where like the war is happening.
Political punching.
Political
yeah.
punching.
I'll be right there with you.
Political punching, like Buzz Aldrin.
As long as I can be Garrick, we'll be fine.
If I get to be Cisco, then we're set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
High five. We're there.
There.
Once again, we're in agreement.
I love it when this happens.
There's a lot of high fives today. It's great.
All high
Good
fives.
energy.
Yeah, you want one?
Yeah.
I got you. How about over here?
Oh,
Yay.
All right.
Oh, high five. Air high five.
Fun.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
weird. Homeworld it seems like a weird blip, and it's one of those things that just seems so not a slam dunk of an idea that I'm really curious what they do with it.
Well, there's also the third option,
Speaking
like
of
the
non-slam dunk ideas,
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade miniatures.
Not a slam dunk, you sure?
Derek, tell me why they're not a slam dunk.
Wait, I thought you would be totally all over this.
It's weird. Like
You'd think.
you'd
Right.
think,
Such
but
a huge World of
it's
Darkness
one of
fan.
those things of like I don't know. It's a product announcement. You're like, that's cool. Who's gonna use it?
Right? Nobody.
It's
Well,
weird.
explain why.
Well, so
For
like.
the peanut gallery.
Yeah, so you don't really. I've never seen people use miniatures in World of Darkness.
It's
ever.
theater of the mind.
Yeah, I mean it's usually theater of mind. Sometimes you'll draw something out, but it's still abstract enough that you don't usually use miniatures, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really benefit from miniatures the way that D&D does.
Right.
Because you don't use a battle map or anything.
Well, even if you were to use a battle map, usually when you're fighting in like vampire or something like that, you're fighting like the particular vampire who pissed you off, not 5 Bruja. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so it's not like D&D where just having 5 skeletons and having a bunch of skeletons from a drawer you can pull from,
Yeah.
having goblins you can pull from, really kind of gets the players into what's happening. It's not quite like that. So having the miniatures isn't really going to be super useful for the role-playing game.
Yeah.
Now, these are kind of resculpts of the original ones because they did these back in the 90s too.
So it's unclear. Like I think they highlighted that the news release we found kind of emphasized that they're back from the dead, and I'm not sure how much of that is just like vampires, the dead, rise again kind of thing.
Sure.
Blah,
So-
blah, 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 blah.
Just a marketing ploy to sell miniatures for a game that doesn't use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like because what they're talking about is like characters from the meta plot, the factions, stuff like that, and that meta plot and those characters have which characters we care about has changed so much from the 90s. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what miniatures they could have resculpted to update from them. It's weird. Like, as a collector, as a lover of vampire, as someone who is now new into minis, yeah, I'll probably pick a few of these up. Like,
Yeah.
a
This is
Lucida-
your product.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
1 or 2 of these as a collector. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a set, like, but I had too many minis to paint anyway. Like, so it's one of those like,
I'm always looking for more modern style minis
Sure,
anyway, so
sure.
I think it's a great product just based on that. And the characters, I mean, the sculpts seem to be cool. So
And you were saying that they're not player characters too, because that could be a thing. Even if you're not doing anything, it's like, oh, this is my character. But if they are more named characters,
That's the
then-
assumption. Like,
Yeah.
they did mention like a miniature of a sect, like the Anarch miniature, which doesn't like it. A lot of these things don't seem to make sense until we see more details.
Yeah, could be another thing is like we'll just print it and see if it makes us a ton of money. Magic.
It could, but it's very weird. Like if this had been accompanied with, here's a vampire miniatures game,
yeah.
then I would have been like, yeah, absolutely. Like I would totally be in for
Shut up, take my money.
yeah, a vampire
Yeah.
miniatures game
Yeah.
that was like squad based. Let me field a few vampires, and maybe they happen to have the vampires from the metaplot. Sure.
Yeah.
that game isn't real though.
this.
That's not a real game.
Yes, but maybe now they'll make it.
Yeah.
But that would have made more sense. So again, this is just kind of a. It's really weird. I'm curious. So I guess the press release worked in that sense. I'm
Yeah.
paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, they would be. So chat was saying they would rather see changeling miniatures than anything.
No.
But the thing is, the changeling miniatures. You know the way you really do those is I'm going to get you in on this because changeling. I don't know if you may not know, but changeling was all about how there were two worlds superimposed on each other.
Yeah, that was
You
my
get,
game.
you get a miniature that looks completely different in AR.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, mind blown.
That's right. Because changelings.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you'd have you'd just like to a scientist, the
Yeah.
changeling character just looks like a kid.
Yeah.
But to the awoken, the changeling that touched, then they're like a 3 foot tall goblin or something.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That
Put
is,
on your
yeah.
fairy glasses now.
Oh.
And now I want to make those more than anything.
AR. I told you, AR is the world. I'm gonna have a computer in my glasses. I'm gonna put Rowan robot eye.
I'm gonna have computers in my eyes. That's what I'm
As
looking
much as I
forward
want
to.
all of that,
No,
I don't see it happening.
but
That stuff is the
How-
flying car of
how
our time.
can I be a cyborg?
You can't.
Yeah.
Not yet.
You can, kind of.
I want to be cyborg, no cyborg. Anyway,
Sorry.
All right, what's next?
What's next? Well,
This one's a doozy.
yeah, this
speaking
is
of cyberpunk dystopia,
guys. I hate to bring this up again, but China, guys, China. So some things have been happening with China, especially in regards to how revenue goes through the entertainment business in general. And there have been some questions raised, and some television episodes made, and some outcry, and some
political
attaboys.
situation in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And most of it has to do with exactly that. So the pro Blizzard player who was subsequently had all his money taken away.
Well, yeah. So Blitzchung was a Hearthstone champion.
Right.
He had just won a
Yes.
tournament, I think. During an interview, expressed support for Hong Kong
Kong.
protesters, who I'm telling you right now, if anybody actually wants to know what the cyberpunk corporate-run government of the future is, go research Hong Kong because it is weird as hell. Like look into what they're protesting and how that government is set up, and it is straight up Shadowrun is happening right now,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
except for the magic.
There.
We'll get there.
Maybe.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
But so this is like what happened. Like you said that he expressed support for this, and then was immediately they cut away stream, they banned him.
His host dove under the table.
Like
Yeah.
as soon as they
Yeah.
dove under the table.
Well, he came in with a gas mask.
Yes.
That was the thing, and nobody knew what was happening, and so it was all very dramatic. They cut away from it, kicked him out of the tournament, took away all his
Earnings.
tens of thousands of dollars,
And they
at
fired
least.
the casters.
Yeah,
that
and
was
fired
the
the
bigger.
casters.
They fired the
Yeah.
casters who was like, I don't know. They asked the production staff, what's going on? What do we do? And they're just like,
That you go home and you take your stuff with you and don't come back.
Yeah.
if
well,
we just aren't seen, then we can save our jobs, right? Yeah.
Right.
No.
Well, I'm sure as any streamer, right, you just go with the flow. You do your best in the moment. And
Anyway, Blizzard caught a lot of heat from this particular act for firing the casters, for fining the player.
Yeah.
And
they deleted the Twitch VOD too, so
Yeah.
even erased the evidence.
exactly. Take it all down. This never happened.
Sure is a good thing that evidence doesn't have a habit of just permanently staying on the internet no matter what
And
you
at the
do.
beginning,
Right.
Blizzard softballed the response, and so that got a lot of internet backlash, obviously, because we're gamers and we get mad about just about everything, especially things that actually deserve to be angry about.
Yeah.
And then Wizards had a tournament, right? They playing some magics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As one does. you
As
know,
one does.
Play the cards.
Another interview happened. Person also expressed interest in supporting Hong Kong. And
Although I think they did it much less dramatically.
Yes.
Well, they were wearing a face mask. I saw the stream and I saw the person with the mask. I didn't know what was going on. So there was like some very visible
well, yeah,
stuff
they don't want to
happening
be
there.
arrested by secret police in the middle of the night.
Right,
That's
yeah.
where they have a little plausible deniability. Wear the bandana, you know,
Yeah.
just wear
Yeah.
the bandana.
Yeah.
And, you know, made a similar, less dramatic statement. And what happened?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing
I
happened.
think that player also had a history of, they had also expressed support in the past.
Yeah, in 2014, when it was the big umbrella movement, one of their decks that they highlighted and played with was called the Umbrella. And so who we're talking about is Li Shi...
Chan.
No. Is that?
Chan.
Sean. So, sorry, really bad at pronouncing names, by the way, words in general. So he has been an avid supporter and lives in Hong Kong and is a very political, like, player in many ways. And so Wizards of the Coast, or WotC, has already known about this player's affiliation, their beliefs. And so because he wore the tournament, you know, they're just like, yeah, go ahead. And it's not like something they can hand wave because they still do have a huge market in this, like, basically in China.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's not like something like, oh, you know, they're just doing it because Blizzard's getting bad beef. They're still taking a step for their beliefs that could potentially cost them.
Yeah, so they're not
Absolutely.
doing nothing. You
Yes.
know, they are by doing nothing. They're and they're specific. They're like, don't do anything. Like, they actually called it out. They're like, don't say anything. Like, don't make any big deal. But like, just.
Well, so what you're saying is that they informed their production staff.
Yeah.
They did not tell the players that they couldn't
Oh
say
yeah,
things.
exactly. So the production stuff, like, just go with it. Like, don't make any big deal about it. Like, just let stuff happen. Like, they didn't make anything telling them that.
So
like,
it's a
ban.
really interesting situation, I think, to see because you know I am absolutely on the side of players and personalities in general, not only expressing themselves but expressing support for the Hong Kong situation.
Or the things
'Cause
that the things that they believe in
Yeah,
general.
like in general, I support it. In specific, I also support it. But it's a really weird thing to think about from like a corporate standpoint or
Yeah.
just from a scale standpoint, because this is not just happening with Blizzard. It's also like the NBA is going through basically the exact same
The
thing
same
right
thing.
now. And the NBA has a history of being very outspoken and progressive.
Yes.
And there was the really interesting note I heard on the news that the NBA really wants to be in China, and that there are more basketball fans in China than there are people in the U.S.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, from a organization standpoint, you know, that organization thinking, you know, how do I? This is an opportunity that I have to take.
Yeah.
How do I do that properly and maintain integrity?
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, and
You make a choice.
Yeah, you certainly do.
You
But like,
keep your integrity or you take the damn money.
yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
well, Blizzard's argument, again, I'm not supporting them, but their side of it, at least what they said, was we want to keep it focused on the game. So they didn't say, like, oh, they didn't come out having a stance. They just said, like, oh, we don't want politics. Well, they said we don't want people feeling uncomfortable, which, again, is doublespeak, but they're like, you know, like, what if, like, we can think people coming out and having free speech on the other side? Like, I'm sure there's issues that we can all talk about.
Because
Like,
what they said and what they did was different. I
Yeah.
have more of a problem with it because they said we just want to keep politics out of games. We don't want, you know,
yeah,
we want it to be about the game. But they still fired those casters.
yeah.
So the really interesting thing to me is that China is an interesting example where you have a very authoritarian government. So you have to figure out how you're going to work with that. And that's kind of like one side of the business. But then there is also the fact that there are many fans in China who are incensed or angry or feel affronted by that. And how you address those concerns, I think, are a little more nuanced. how you convince those people who are mad that someone said, support Hong Kong, people who would read that as an attack on China. We have the same problems in the U.S. where anybody who
Colin Kaepernick.
Exactly. Like, how do you deal with that? Is a thing that we as a society and a world are going to have to figure out.
You either let the person have free speech or you punish them for using it. Those are your two options.
But what I'm trying to say is you have two entities that are punishing.
Yes.
One is the community and the fans, and the other is the organization that's in charge. And it's hard to say that just fixing one is necessarily going to fix it. You get what I mean?
There's no
No, because you can't fix everybody.
Sure. Yes,
But you
you
can fix where the problem comes from.
Yes.
And if that's from the company, then the company needs to take a stand or not and make that decision. You can't do anything about the fans. If you say something unpopular, people are not going to like it.
Yeah.
If you say something popular, people are going to like it.
Well, this brings another question I've been kind of thinking about competition and whether or not we should for a lot of gaming, should bring politics into it. For example, in the 1960s during the Olympics, there was a lot of African American players or black players in the Olympics when they won wore a black glove doing black power. Also, the people who were kneeling down during a lot of games for Black Lives Matter.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
But to me, the idea of keep it focused on the game is such a cheap excuse and cowardly exit.
Yeah.
Because if you look at people want celebrities to be people.
Yes.
I don't understand why, but they want to know about the personal lives of celebrities.
Yeah. They want to know their political opinions.
Until they get an opinion that they don't like.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
that, to me, it's either you care about these people as people, and you want to hear what they have to think, or you don't. And so, can you imagine how boring it would be if every sports interview was just, how did you play that game? Not anything of how do you feel. Nobody wants that
Yeah.
until they say that's what they want because they didn't like the speech that someone gave.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
Well, I mean, you can't appease everyone.
Sure.
I'm for let people be people. If they want to change their body, change their body. If it's not hurting me, don't worry. And a lot of people don't agree with that kind of view.
Yeah, I suspect that we're a little liberal.
Yeah, we might be a little liberal
here's
here.
Seattle.
This table is slightly liberal leaning, I've noticed.
Slightly. But, I mean, there is that whole, you can't, even me doing children's shows and stuff, there are people who have addressed concerns that I'm just let people love.
I don't play games to express my political beliefs, but I'm not afraid to express my political beliefs in those games if if that's a character thing, or if or if I'm. But yeah, I just it's a touchy subject. I want to be on one side or the other. I can understand why companies don't want to affect their bottom line. I absolutely understand that. If they're a money making machine, anything that stops money is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if it's one of those things of I can understand the mindset of the company because the CEO, the employee of the company, the lawyer of the company thinks it is their duty to protect the company's interests. The company's interest is making but to me that should be, once you have that line of thought, you should be hey, maybe capitalism isn't everything we should be worried about.
See, alternatively, I also think that if a corporation is in fact a person, that person is allowed to have political beliefs and take stands on things. So, if then they better start doing it.
So we're going to loop back around Shadowrun and talk about
Shadowrun.
corporate personhood.
All right, we have a lot of stuff to cover.
Yes.
We should probably stop talking politics, even though it is important.
Maybe we can.
Well, this story
can
had
do-
to do specifically with politics.
Yeah.
We had to talk.
We covered it.
We did.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
It inspires people to
look
look
at
at.
that. It's actually that's the end of headlines.
Yeah.
So we're okay.
Well,
let's move on to the fun
should
stuff.
should we come back to this as a topic? Maybe should we use
maybe
this as a
in the
cyberpunk
future
case
if we
study?
can make it
Cyberpunk,
fun.
Yeah.
but then that also touches with cultural differences. Is it our place as the United States to force our cultural beliefs on another area? Even it's it's a can of worms.
Almost like Life is Complicated.
Have I mentioned riffs yet?
There.
Let's do that now.
Segue.
Segways.
Actually, instead of moving on to riffs, we're going to move on to bundles.
What if we had a riffs game of a basketball player, a football player, a Hearthstone pro player,
Magic player?
Yeah, Magic player, all traveling the world, saving people.
Oh wait, I thought it was something else.
I would do
giggling in
that.
my head.
What are you doing in that corner?
Just laughing.
It's a very
Is this like what we talked
uncomfortable
about
laugh.
earlier before the show?
That little asterisk note.
There.
We're moving on to bundles, ladies and
Bundles.
gentlemen. I'm so glad that you're sticking around for this mass of segue fun. The Humble Bundle this week is an RPG book bundle, of course, for the Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader, which is, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Warhammer with privateers. See what I did for you right there?
Yep.
I was specifically not.
Wait, what's a
don't-
privateer?
They're pirates.
Okay, cool.
They're pirates. They're government-sanctioned pirates. That's what they do. They are pirates.
They're like a
They're
tax
pirates
man.
with letters of marque and nothing more. Just pirates.
Nope, definitely not pirates.
So wait,
But the thing is, if you tell people it's Warhammer 40K pirates, then those people who love pirates will get all excited.
Yeah.
And then there won't be our matey,
Oh,
there
it's
will
a
not be
fancy
hooks, there will not be peg legs, parrots, hats,
well,
or any
didn't
of
there
that.
be? This is an RPG. I feel like you can do whatever you want.
None of that. It's all. The book literally says you can't do it.
There, it says like no parrots.
If you can
in
find
there.
any way to make this
And-
fun, we are taking that from
Well,
you
that's the
right
thing.
now.
So the rogue traders can break the rules of the Empire, right?
Yes.
So they can have joy and
The
happiness.
Empire doesn't have a rule that you can't have joy and happiness.
Okay.
The universe has a rule. It's like gravity.
No, you're
Gravity is a rule. It's a law of the universe.
But it's different on every planet.
Yeah.
So-
no, it's the same. There's just more of it.
So think of
That's
it
not
this
how
way.
gravity works. It's not different
Imagine,
gravity.
imagine that
But
you
what
do
if they only
get
have like this much?
this much.
It's still the same gravity.
I don't know. I mean, it's on a different planet. It's
But
probably
yeah,
different,
imagine
right?
this is how it is. Like you could potentially have a parrot that you raise, and then on your first mission, it gets shot, just right on your shoulder.
Oh, but
Boom.
then it comes back and it's a zombie
It's a
parrot.
zombie
You could have a
evil
zombie parrot
parrot.
if it made you miserable, right?
Yeah.
Only
And
if
all it does
blessed
is
by
like
Nurgle,
it
yes.
was.
Wait, but why does it make you miserable? It came back to life. And
It
it's your
came
best
back to
friend.
life,
I
but
know.
it's possessed by that bully that died in unfortunate circumstances. So it just makes fun of you and all of your insecurities.
Oh.
No.
It's 40K. You have to understand. Just like, again, there's a lot of gravity. There's a lot of grimdark. In the grimdark future, there is only war.
But luckily, there is also pirates.
Oh, but also
I
the
don't know why I
foundation.
like that this makes you so upset. What this bundle includes is a $314 value, including the Rogue Trader core rule book, the Into the Storm. It's got basically, this is literally every source book that Fantasy Flight Games put out for the Rogue Trader series in Warhammer 40K. Ever.
So it's like the other bundle that we had. I think it was Deathwatch. I'm not sure.
It was. It
That
was
was a Cubicle 7 kind of rebrand
Yeah.
of what Fantasy Flight had put out.
Yep.
And just in case anybody isn't aware what the Rogue Trader stuff actually is. So, instead of playing a Space Marine going to war, the Rogue Traders are
You're on the Yamamoto, but like with more skulls.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
So you are.
You have a big
the
death gun
Rogue
or
Traders have their own ships, and they have permission to not only leave the borders of the Empire, but to actually talk to aliens instead of shooting them. So you have permission to do these things, but it's all specifically to help the Empire better exterminate or exploit all the resources they find.
But then that one time you talked to an alien and you
You use
developed
so many words
feelings
like
for each other.
exterminate and exploit.
And you started
to
a
40K.
relationship, an
Yep.
interspecies alien relationship, and then you live happily ever after.
No.
No, because you have to worry about the Inquisitor, who then takes up space on your ship and is like,
If you have a class of people in your world called Inquisitor,
Yeah.
like
The
you
Inquisition.
know it's a scary place.
What a show
You
with the
run away across the
Inquisition.
galaxy together.
Wait,
what
Rogue
do the-
Trader
what do the
and,
children do?
Nurgle? Is that
The
Yep.
children
Yep. Yep.
survive.
Yep, Emma. Yes, absolutely. Nurgle would be happy to bring you happiness in 480K. Don't worry. All are loved in Papa Nurgle's embrace. Please come closer.
Yeah, that sounds
We'll
great.
give you cute little Nurglings.
And
even.
Nurgles
That
are
sounds lovely.
Nurgle is the super cute little
Yeah.
awful thing.
Those are the Nurglings.
Nurglings, those are the cute ones.
Yeah.
The super huge, fat, big one, that's Nurgle.
Yeah.
Ah.
That's who the Rogue Trader falls in love with.
And Nurgle just wants you to be happy
Yeah, you see, it's great.
and to expand.
See, there is
out into
happiness in the
universe.
universe.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
You just is it in the embrace of chaos.
Oh, in the
Ah.
embrace of chaos. So there you go. That is that actually that charity benefits the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So very, very important charity. They are known for taking very, very sick kids and sending them to Disneyland or to meet John Cena. So help make a kid happy. Or to Gen Con.
Huh? What? What's Gen Con?
Have you heard? Oh, it's a place that. Yeah.
It's the place that signs your check.
So
So there you go. That's Humble Bundle right there. That's it. And
it's been very interesting to see Cubicle 7 put out these bundles because it kind of feels like they're giving folks a chance to like catch up and collect the old material
before they start putting out the new
their
stuff.
own new
Yeah.
stuff. It's pretty smart.
It is nice, and because they have all the licenses and IPs for that, they can do that at very, very low cost and low overhead.
Yeah.
And benefit an amazing cause. So there you go. That's bundles. Bundles are done.
Bundles.
Kickstarter Queen, you have
I
returned.
have returned.
The court has been
That's right. We are disbanding the
The
court.
Kickstarter Queen is gone. Long live the Kickstarter Queen.
Indeed.
Yes. All hell.
So yes, get us started. I want to know what's with Kickstarters.
Well, so I think that I was still on vacation when a lot of these were added.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of you are gonna pop in on ones that you feel strongly about.
Yeah.
But the first one we want to go over has 2 days left. It's called Seekers Beyond the Shroud, and this is, you ready? The first part of this is going to sound extremely Derek. An urban occult role-playing game. Yep.
Yeah.
With
but it's,
exploitation and extermination.
no, that's the far future one.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, that's the future game.
Yeah.
Like I'm very compartmentalized.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, but this is a solo RPG, which is one of those things that I'm broadly skeptical of because
Yeah.
I'm used to like Choose Your Own Adventure or game books or something like that. But this is from Exalted Funeral is involved in this, and they've put out a number of
That sounds like the name of your favorite company.
just about.
Exalted Funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is also extremely 90s and extremely Derek.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Venn diagram crossover here if anybody's not paying attention.
The circle is nearly complete.
Yep. It's less of a,
Soon we
less
shall
of a Venn
create the perfect
diagram
game.
Yeah.
and more of an eclipse.
Yeah.
So Exalted Funeral was involved in distributing a number of like really intriguing indie RPGs. Like, very, very stylish, very like punk rock metal kind of zine aesthetic thing, like very weird and experimental. So this just seems really interesting because it might be, I guess, an expression of that solo gaming that we're seeing a lot with board games. Some of that learning maybe that's going to translate to an interesting indie RPG experience.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious how that's going to work. There's a few other ones I've seen, like 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, I think,
Yeah.
that felt more like it was almost hard to say it's a traditional RPG and maybe more of a like journaling, inspirational kind of writing prompt. But I suppose at a certain level, that line between just a writing prompt and indie or solo RPG is going to get pretty thin.
Yeah.
Solo RPGs baffle me.
Yeah.
The idea behind them baffles me because it's role playing, so you have to interact as your character with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure, but
Well, when there's a
Like if
GM,
I'm sitting in a room talking to myself over a book and rolling dice, I probably need to be hospitalized.
well, I mean, just so that someone can bring you food and you can game more, right?
Yeah. That sounds
I
lovely.
guess.
Well,
I'm just gonna imagine they're talking in character to nobody.
I'm excited. Because you had mentioned elements of a choose your own adventure too. Like
Yeah, and we don't know if it's in this, but like
Yeah.
if that's when someone said solo RPG,
Yeah.
that would be my first thought.
Right.
Like, how different is it from Choose Your Own Adventure? And I would absolutely not call that an RPG.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some like adventure thing where you have options, scenarios. Like I think that this has the opportunity to be something very innovative in the game design space. And I remember like years and years ago, like books, like adventure books, like puzzle books and stuff, where you're still interacting. But
the thing to me that I'm intrigued by, and I don't know if they're going to accomplish it here, but I think that there's space to play around with here, despite some people's objections, would be that, role playing, you say role playing is interacting in character with other people at the table.
Yes.
But it's also making a character, making a backstory, and stats, and determining your character's philosophy and stuff like that.
That actually can just
you-
be writing. The
Yeah.
role
Yeah.
playing is when you're
But-
role
but-
playing.
but-
You're playing a role. That's right in the name.
Yes, but it's not the only thing involved.
No,
Like,
of
that's
course,
what-
there's so
but-
much more to it, but the essence of it is the playing
well,
of
you
a role.
wait, you can absolutely play a role by yourself. Like when you're a kid with your imaginary friend, you're like Calvin and Hobbes, right? Like you're playing the role.
and of course you can.
And one way to
And it's sad when you're our age and doing that.
But one way to write is to assume a role.
Right.
That's still role playing.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing inherent in the title role playing that you have to involve other people. Like it's
No, but now you've made it role-playing game. You see, you put that G on there.
Well, the game can be the mechanics
Yeah.
and the rolling
So
and the strategy.
it's one of those things.
I mean, you could play games by yourself, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Solitary.
just role-playing in that game seems weird
What
to
if
me.
you just like being with yourself?
I do. I very much enjoy being
well,
with
the thing is,
myself.
I
do it every day.
I know plenty of people who make normal RPGs, solo RPGs, because they just like making characters.
Yeah.
They just make characters. So it's intriguing to me just because the way I've been thinking about what a role-playing game is and what it isn't, because I love categorization, shockingly enough. But
And I've changed my stance a bit on this over the years
know,
of
but
what
like,
an RPG is. But
to me, like just especially coming from like the White Wolf side of things, you know, just acknowledging that buying and reading the books alone was a way to interact and be part of that community.
yeah, I guess I
So-
just want to see how this game is played
That's what I
Oh,
mean.
yeah.
because the way I'm picturing it is dumb.
So
It's probably good you're not the designer then.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not, and I don't claim to be. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Okay, I mean, I guess that's something you could do.
So then go check it out and back it for PDF level.
2
Maybe
days
I'll see
left.
how it goes.
Yeah,
And
no,
we
I'll
can do a
definitely go
stream
check it
where
out. I
we
wanna
all
know more
solo
about it.
RPG.
Oh, just by
quietly.
yourself.
Well, by yourself.
we can all play.
love
Today
you.
we're all playing solo RPGs.
We'll put
All your
dividers.
ideas are great. Why don't we have a show for each of these things?
By the way, it's like having dinner.
I think
It's
money
nice
and
to have
time is
dinner
why
by
we don't
guess
have a show
so.
for each of
Damn, I'm dead.
them. So anyway, it's intriguing.
Yeah.
It is. It is intriguing.
This
I'm
is,
just.
this is an
I don't know
example
how to
of a
picture it.
weird product. It's on Kickstarter. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What's next?
And then
Next.
is Drinking Quest.
Drinking
Old
Quest.
habits.
Old habits.
So I kind of just did a little bit interested in this game. It's got 4 days left. I am very much a beer and pretzels kind of gal.
You're a beer and pretzels gamer by your own admission. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
I have. I like to just have fun and have snacks while
Yeah.
I'm role playing.
like
A lot of
snacks.
people are just like, don't touch my books. But I'm like, I watched them.
Well, don't touch the books with the Cheeto dust.
No, I just do
the-
this. You do this. And then you.
No.
No, Derek's like, no, you need to go to the
Maybe
bathroom.
I need
you
to
need
get
to
some
get
sleeves
soap.
from my books before you come over.
Oh no, you hate
Every
sleeves.
page.
But yeah,
Just like sleep.
But yeah, so
Do they have
basically it's a very
called a PDF.
loose definition. Like it's a tabletop card flipping game where you kind of have a set of adventures. They advertise it as an RPG. It's very
But we could probably
loose.
argue that for hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could argue that for
Really?
hours.
Us? Argue
Yeah.
about whether it's an RPG or not?
But
Derek's
it's
like, it's not.
it's a throwback to the 80s kind of game. You play it like if you succeed at it at a card, you get experience. If you lose, you have to take a drink in some sort of
And
fashion.
to be clear, like especially for
Yes.
this Kickstarter, the style of it is very old, like Redbox D&D.
Yes.
It's definitely indulging in that kind of nostalgia.
But they do make a note that it's not a game to just totally get wasted on, just to have fun and get inebriated to a good adult
So
point.
is that? Do they say that just to cover their butts so
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about liability when
Yeah.
people die?
I mean, have they ever played a drinking
So
game?
Budweiser encourages you to drink responsibly.
Right.
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
also buy all of the Budweiser.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Also selling like the million pack where you need a truck to like.
but it's an expansion from the previous game before Drinking Quest. So if you
Yeah.
if you like the idea of you just partying with your friends and you have like Rainiers or something to
Yeah.
pound
I know
down.
several people that if you just say drinking game, they're like, what? Yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, what if you drink blue milk instead of beer?
how about I just sip it? And trust me, do not chug blue milk.
But
Your head will explode.
yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
The whole style, if you're like a fan of mostly like munchkins or like silly humor,
Yeah.
a lot of fart jokes kind of cards.
Oh gosh, those are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4
We know
days
how much
left.
you love poop jokes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Poop is not cute. Okay.
For
All
the
right, so
record,
that's,
for the record,
that's
For the
it.
record.
That's Drinking Quest.
That's
Old
Drinking
Habits.
Quest. Yes.
That closes on Tuesday, October 29th. So if you are interested in that game, go check it out.
Yes.
so another Kickstarter we have 5 days left is Versus Kickstarter 2. And this is a kind of another set of games. If people may have been paying attention to like Twitter or kind of indie RPGs lately,
Yeah.
There's more and more of a push or a movement, I guess, around like the one-page RPG.
Yeah.
Where it's a super narrow, like super rules light, very, very narrow. Just one core concept, like Honey Heist is a really classic one. Your bear is trying to steal honey. Like, That's it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not trying to play everything. Not every character concept or campaign was here. It's just like I think someone just put out the Untitled Goose Game, the one-page RPG. You're a
Nice.
goose.
Yeah.
Go be bad.
Yeah.
Like that's it. A lot of these end up being like really kind of straddling the line of like a story game,
Okay, I was gonna
improv
say.
kind of thing
Yeah.
with very, very light rules. You're just gonna kind of bullshit your way through a thing, and you're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Like a
so-
role-playing game.
Yes.
Oh.
But very, very light one.
Yeah.
So this one, this project in particular, is several more. There's like versus, like a couple of different genres. There's like World War II versus Hitler kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a giant robot one, and there's a post-apocalyptic kind of Mad Maxy one.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of unlockable stretch goals to, turn those into slightly different tweaks of those genres, or to add spies, things like that.
So what are we've got all of this: giant monsters, spies, radiation,
Yep.
versus the Empire, Mars, mirror shades. But you know what has all of these things?
Riffs.
Risk.
Okay, you knew.
But does it come in one page that you can just take?
Absolutely not. I don't.
Not even close.
Not even a character is going to fit on one page.
Nope.
But
So, but this is just if you're kind of seeing some of the one-page RPGs, this is a pretty well-regarded version of that. Seems pretty open, a little more traditional maybe than some of the other one-page RPGs.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might be a good place to experiment.
Cool.
okay.
Cool.
Another Kickstarter.
This is definitely a new Kickstarter too,
Really?
isn't
The
it?
Deep Magic one?
Oh no, I was looking at the one below it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, that's going to be Bonsai. You'll be surprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Deep Magic for 5th edition.
Derek
This is.
hates spells.
I do hate spells. I want to emphasize that.
For the record.
Spells and magic items, garbage. I hate them. I hate them. Anyway, Cobalt Press has a new book of spells. So Cobalt Press
should
is
buy it.
yeah. Cobalt Press is a series of like deep magic where they give the thing that I do like is this is like weird magic, strange magic. That's cool. I'm really into that.
Yeah.
And this I think is like a collection kind of revision of some of the stuff they've put out over the past couple of years.
Okay.
So if you're looking for more magic options in D&D 5th edition, Cobalt Press has their
600 plus spells. That's crazy.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of spells.
isn't it?
Subclasses are cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
dig it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing too, like just fun to read, like you said.
Yeah,
Like
that-
I just
that's the
like
part I
reading
like.
through the spells and like, oh, I can make like milky white tentacles and a ball of darkness. That sounds fun.
I like figuring out the weird philosophy behind the new school of magic. That's what I like.
Yeah, yeah. I actually, yeah, the
The
subclasses.
milky white tentacles and the ball of darkness.
Yeah, and it gives you like
We should play Vampire.
frost damage.
We should.
We should play more games. Oh,
Yeah.
but yes, speaking of cool games that
Speaking
you
of
might-
vampires.
Vampires. So Moth Children, a vampire
name.
tabletop RPG. This takes a different turn for vampires. It's actually what their world vampires are is a symbiotic relation with them and a moth parasite. That
Like the bad guys in
climbs-
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 5th season.
So it climbs into you and it occupies your heart.
Uh-huh.
And different like moths have different abilities and different things. So you can feast on blood and get a little sustenance off of blood, but your real way to unlock immortality is by eating other moth children or other vampires.
I was hoping it would be interpretive dance, but it's always eating the children.
Yeah.
The
I'm
children.
getting a very Monaco Magica vibe off of this. I have to say.
But yeah, it has 6 days left, and how you have to do there's like about like I believe 8 different or like 18 classes of different vampires, and the way to receive immortality is to consume one of each type of vampire. You gotta eat them all.
Like collect them all.
But you gotta
Wait,
eat them.
and then you fly into the sun.
You want
So
to be
it's
the
basically-
very best.
It's basically
No
Bram
one
Stokerman.
ever was.
From Stokeman.
No, but the
Dad
funny
jokes.
thing
Yeah.
is that
Brom Ketchum.
like all vampires, they can't be exposed to the sun. But the parasite in you, like it says, moth children. You really, really want to be in the sun, and if you collect and eat all of the other types of vampires, you can potentially. The rumor is you can be a daywalker. So it's.
But then I would owe so much money to the IRS.
Too
soon?
Blade.
So
But yeah.
Right on.
this
Okay.
is definitely a weird indie RPG kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very
But
weird.
it looks
very
it looks
specific.
strangely fun, and I would like to play it.
Yeah.
I will warn you though, for the backers, it's very like not specific with rules, so it's gonna probably be kind of crunchy trying to walk through it. But I like the idea of taking vampires in a different light, and this relationship is this like like the parasite is a symbiotic relationship. How
Yeah.
most people think tapeworms work, but they don't work like how they portray in TV shows.
You have a very interesting way of presenting a game. It's like tapeworms,
Tapeworms.
but vampires. Cool. Cool.
Back now.
You ever want a vampire tapeworm, kids? This is how you get one.
But they don't make you skinny. It's a lie. It's not a symbiotic relationship. Never mind. Hey, look, there's this other game.
All right.
can
For
right,
more
so-
on the tapeworm diet,
Speaking of the 90s,
Yeah, sure.
Visigoths versus Molgoths.
it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Visigoths versus Molgoths. It's a tabletop role-playing game and dating simulator.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Visigoths are like, paint me a word picture.
Pagan Viking
Fall of Rome.
goth.
Okay.
They're Viking goths.
Viking Goths with armor. They're like,
Sure. They ransack Rome.
okay.
It did not work.
There. Cool. Gotcha.
So
Up to
like
speed.
the basically, I think the idea is that there's like a time portal or something like that.
Yeah, you get
And
teleported into the mall.
The ancient Goths who ransacked Rome are brought into a like 90s mall. So like
And they date the Molgoths.
I mean,
They
Some
battle-
of them. I mean,
Okay.
you know, a love
so
connection
I
can
like
be
how
made.
incredulous you are, but we were talking about Warhammer, and you're like, well, what if you
No,
meet
no,
a
I
cool,
know, that's why I
you
s-
meet a cool alien and you live happily ever after?
No, it
Smoochy,
wasn't
smoochy, smooch.
incredulous. I was like, it's just like the rogue traders and the Nurgles together. The
Yep.
Molgoths
About,
and the Visigoths.
about the
Rogue Trader
conflict.
and
I like it.
the
It's right here in the
Nurgle.
blurb. About the conflicts and romances among the warriors who sacked ancient Rome and 20th century spooky teens.
Set in the mall.
I mean, that's
I also like the line, there are a lot of bisexuals.
Yeah, I mean, I also just love that like they
This is my game.
they list a bunch of movies that are like the touchstones for this game.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Craft, Empire Records, Bill and Ted, Clueless.
Yeah.
Are you saying you wouldn't play that?
I would
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
play
yeah.
that game.
That is, those are my spirit movies. So.
Great.
It's
Well,
good.
this is your
Especially with
Especially
if,
Kickstarter.
especially with
You
all
have-
of the
you
bisexuals.
have 6 days. Wait,
And
does
it
that make
ends on Halloween.
does that make this the cutest Kickstarter of the week?
I mean,
You know,
it's honorary,
Honorary
yeah. Honorary
cutest
of the choices we
Kickstarter.
have.
this
is the
looks
cutest.
super cute.
Super cute. All you want is
I really do want to play this so bad.
You want them to fight, and kiss.
You need to play StarCraft. The two of you really need to play StarCraft.
Yeah.
Probably with each other. Oh boy. Moving on,
All right,
our last
what's
Kickstarter of the week.
Kickstarter?
Last Kickstarter of the week is actually something I am very excited about. It has 7 days left. It's Haunted West, a historical Weird West RPG core book, but it's not like a lot of other Weird West kind of books. This one actually,
There's that many? I mean,
there
there's
is.
Deadlands,
There's Deadlands.
and then a
then-
couple other that are.
I mean, the
There's much
genre of
Savage
weird
World stuff,
stuff
too.
happening in the West, kind of thing, when it was the unknown. But this is mainly focused on kind of like a twist historical fiction kind of thing, and it's mainly focused on the other kind of cowboys, like the African American cowboys, the Chinese,
The
Native
railroad
Americans.
workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the forgotten.
Displaced
The
Native
forgotten-
Americans.
Wild West characters of color, basically.
Yeah, Wild West characters of color, and you basically get to hear about some of these figures that actually occurred in history. But unlike Deadlands, these things atrocities aren't very like goofy and out in the own like everybody knows. Yeah, you know, like werewolves. Yeah,
Evil
they just-
lies in the
the Soul
shadows.
Rock.
Yeah, so it's more or less you dive into these things and you figure out, oh, okay, hey, this is like the goat demon thing.
So it's
Chupacabra.
more West and less
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's the really interesting thing to me is it's taking the Western and it's taking like the occult horror stuff,
Yeah.
both of which I love, putting them together, but then presenting it from a person of color perspective.
And the thing I like about it is the historical fiction aspect. It's
Yes.
got a whole complete rewrite of U.S. history from the Civil War on.
But starting from a really interesting like small element that like the assassination of Lincoln takes out somebody else.
Johnson.
Yeah, takes out Johnson as well, and that ends up kind of spiraling off into a new direction. So like it's not
Alternate timeline.
It's not like some other alternate timelines that are like huge and big.
Well, also they give reparations in the middle of the
Yep.
19th century,
Yeah,
and
so-
that changes the entire landscape of the U.S.
Yep.
Making room for some really exciting stories to be told.
This is a great example of a game that clearly has some politics to express and is letting us explore it. Like, this sounds fantastic.
Yes.
What could the
Especially-
world have been like if we would have maybe done things right at the end of the Civil War?
Yeah.
But especially because the creative team behind this did Harlem Unbound, which was Cthulhu from the perspective of black folks in New York at
During the
same
Harlem
time.
Renaissance, which was giant.
Yes.
I don't know. I just see Clockwork Wonders. You know what that makes me think? Wild Wild West.
I'll go to the Wild West.
Well, I mean, I guess it starred Will Smith, so it's right in there.
Yeah,
It's canon now.
it's canon.
James West.
Yeah, but it's just because then you come in with different belief sets. Like if you were to go
Yeah.
through the Asian route, you would have people that maybe feng shui would actually be something, and incense would actually be able to combat some things, and each cultural belief.
And Kung Fu would be actually useful.
I mean, each cultural belief has different areas that you go into. Like for me, I wouldn't jungle-wise. I'm just like people run around, explore the jungle. I'm like, jungle has spirit thingies in there. No.
Yeah.
No, don't go in there
Yeah.
and do that stuff.
Well, that, and also presumably looking at this from the cultural perspective of the people involved.
Yeah.
And so, because people do that, like cultural appropriation, just like, oh, we'll just take everyone's culture and mash it up together. But doing it in a respectful way is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, very specifically, this is a project to watch.
Yes.
Because again, Harlem Unbound won a ton of awards, super highly acclaimed, incredibly well done, and this is the same team kind of tackling westerns, horror. If you're interested in any of that kind of stuff,
Yes.
or even just games with a message, you absolutely need to check this project
It
out.
looks
Yes.
really interesting.
I
I'm
know.
definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, and I also suggest it's just because the creator Sane, the one who wanted to do this is the main passion project about, was that he used to watch westerns with his grandma, and then he was like, how come none of the cowboys look like me?
Yeah.
So he's doing this to essentially hey, these cowboys did exist.
And when we did put people of color in westerns, they were usually played by white men.
There.
But
Well, that or Token.
But apparently there were, black cowboys were a huge
Yeah,
thing.
huge,
They-
exactly.
part of the West
Oh,
that
yeah.
we just don't see.
Yeah.
Yep.
This
Yeah,
is
no,
the forgotten stories.
Giant
That's
culture
why-
of, I mean, even rodeo sports that are mainstays of the sport were invented by people of color. Bulldogging specifically.
Or in Native Americans or Hispanics as well. There's a lot of basically they're a rainbow of cowboys.
See, now I want this team
Rainbow.
to rewrite Werewolf the Wild West for me.
Oh, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Nice.
Well,
But yes.
Cool.
I believe that's it for
Yeah,
our
that
week.
is it for Tabletakes presented by Gen Con this week. Don't forget we are here every Friday at the same bad time. You can hear all about the latest in gaming news. Don't forget to stick around for the new release rundown today in just a few minutes. We've got the Brothers Murph on Monday, the Fireside Chat on Wednesday, and probably something else in between. So we will see you next week. Have a safe weekend, a happy Halloween. See you next time.
Get all the candy.
Bye.